Hey, y'all, we've got a fun, free online workshop coming up for you next week, June 25th and 26th at 7 p.m. Central Time on our Facebook page. Now, to get all the details and to sign up, go to funkyfloralworkshop.com. That's funkyfloralworkshop.com or to our Facebook page. When you sign up, we're just going to send you a supply list, a reminder about what time it is, and some lettering traceables and the traceables for the bookmarks that we're going to be making. So over the 2 nights, we're just going to make some cute, funky floral bookmarks that you can make them with really simple supplies and then use them for your books, your Bible journaling, all kinds of different things. So go to funkyfloralworkshop.com and mark your calendar for June 25th and 26th at 7 p.m. Central Time. Hey, y'all, this is Casey Hope with the Here's Hope podcast. And wow, I've got such a special guest today. We don't usually have writers, producers, filmmakers on the podcast, but today we do. Rebekah Weigel, writer, producer, filmmaker of The Sound of Hope. This is coming out July 4th. Y'all mark it down. It's The Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. This tells a true story of families in Texas that band together and emptied out the foster care system in their area. They adopted 76 kids. They said, we are taking them into our homes. We're going to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And this movie is going to inspire you to take action and to do what you can. And so it's going to be a good one. Y'all grab all your people, head out on opening day, grab churches, youth groups, friends. I think it's just going to be one of those movies that's life-changing. So I am honored to have Rebekah here with us today. So listen in on our little chat with Rebekah Weigel from The Sound of Hope. I am so excited to talk to y'all today about the movie coming out on July 4th called Sound of Hope, the Story of Possum Trot. Look, July 4th, put it on your calendar. It's going to be not just a movie that is entertaining, but one that is life-changing, truly life-changing. And so I am honored to have the writer and producer, Rebekah Weigel, on today. Rebekah, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about the film with you.
Yes. Okay. So let's first I had to Google, is Possum Trot a real place?
Yeah.
And yep, it is. So tell me what happened in Possum Trot that you took notice of and inspired you to want to take on this project of doing this film. What happened in Possum Trot?
Yeah, I mean it's an incredible story. It started in 1998 where the Lord spoke to the pastor's wife, First Lady Donna Martin, and really, inspired her to give back. And her mother had just passed away, and so she was struggling with depression. And her mom was this incredible matriarch of the community. And so when the Lord spoke to her to give back and to foster and adopt, she inspired her husband, who went on and inspired the community and the church to foster and adopt. And their small little community in Possum Trot, which is only like 300 people, 22 families ended up adopting 77 of some of the most difficult to place children in the Texas child welfare system. And so they started a movement that continues today. And we're just so honored to be telling their story.
I love it. I mean, it's incredible. 22 families of a small little area that said, just raised their hand and said, yeah, like I'm going to do this. And, I have only seen the previews, but just from the previews, I appreciate that y'all are showing the good, the bad, the ugly. Like it's not always easy saying, yes, like I'm going to do what God calls me to do. It's hard sometimes. From what I've seen, you show, hey, these people stepped up to the plate. They did the hard stuff, but lives were changed. And so tell me, so you've heard of this story, but you are a filmmaker and you foster and what else do you do in the adoptive foster community outside of making films?
Yeah, well, and we adopted a sibling set back in 2013. So that's kind of what started this passion for this story. We fostered, we adopted, and started to really just become aware of the needs of the kids, the trauma that they go through, what the families are going through, realize how big the problem was. We have 400,000 kids in the foster system with 100,000 waiting for permanency and for placement. And so I began, because I'm I'm a very strong Christian, and it's our faith that compelled us to do this and to foster and adopt. And so I started looking around and thinking, why aren't more churches involved? And we really need the church to rise up and do this. This is what we're called to. That's what compelled us to do it. And so I started working with local churches in Los Angeles, getting them involved in fostering and adopting. And that's where I came across this story. Is I was looking for someone to speak at a pastor's event in Los Angeles for a group of churches, and came across this story and thought, wow, I need to get in touch with these people. Like, this is what we need to happen all over this country. And reached out to Bishop Martin. He was so excited. He's like, let's go, Rebekah, let's go to Los Angeles. And brought him to LA. He spoke at this pastor's event, and it was a standing ovation. The whole room, all these pastors I'd been trying to get involved, their churches, like all of a sudden were like, we want to get involved. We want to help kids. And so I'm like, wow, this is a powerful story. And so I started using him as like a tool all over the city. I would send him into churches, and he would preach, and the church would get involved, and I would do another pastor's event and have him preach. And so I went to my husband, because we had moved to LA to pursue filmmaking, especially him, that, he wanted to direct. And I said, I think we're supposed to tell this story. Like, the church needs to wake up. We need to, really ignite this movement. We need to bring awareness. So yeah, there we were. We started the process of writing the film.
Well, I mean, this is not your first film that you've written. Tell us about you a little bit with your filmmaking background as well. Like, how long have y'all been doing this? Because that's so interesting to me. I've never met a filmmaker. You're the first one I've ever met and talked to. And so tell me, how long have you been doing this? What's your background there?
Yeah, I started out in the field of psychology. So I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I was going to go get my doctorate. I was actually the cheerleader. I believed in my husband. I knew he was an artist. I knew God had called him to make films. So I was like, go, go, go. So when we moved to LA, I started out as, just his support. And when we started, we moved there in 1998, which was the same year the Martins started fostering, actually, and adopting. We moved out to Los Angeles in faith. He started working his way into the industry. And we started slowly. When we started making short films, I was helping just out of necessity, because I believed in him so much. And it's hard to get people to work for you when you don't have a track record. But we started writing together during that time, and I would input on the scripts and help produce, and until he, didn't need me anymore, was what the original goal was. But we worked together so well. We love it. And I really started seeing, man, like, my goals of psychology, are to see healing, to see families restored, to see all of these things happen. But we saw that. We made a short film called The Butterfly Circus. And that's what really, awakened this desire in me, was that after the film was released, we started seeing people like emailing us saying, I was going to commit suicide. And then I watched The Butterfly Circus, and I realized my life had meaning, and it had value, and had purpose. And I decided that and people were getting healed just watching the film, and set free from addictions and different things. And my husband's like, that would take years of counseling, Rebekah. And I was like, that's so true. Like, there's so much power in media and in stories. It's how Jesus communicated to the world, was through stories. And so our visions kind of came together. I mean, he's the artist, and he's a visionary, and he's so talented. And I have a heart for people and stories, and seeing, media transform through, and our culture impacted through stories. And he has that passion too. So that was a long way of answering your question, but yeah, we just want to see films done with excellence that really change lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is going to, I mean, I have seen just within our church, and I love that you talk about, we need the churches to rise up, because like, we are the hands and feet of Jesus, and Jesus clearly says, like, look after the orphans, like, or the Bible clearly says, look after the orphans and the widows. It's not something we have to think about. We do different work in different mission areas. And somebody once asked me, why orphans? Like, why do you choose to work with orphans? And I'm like, why not? Like, what kind of a question is that? Why not? When the Bible clearly says, that pure religion is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, then if we are following God, like that's not even something that we have to ask, should we? Like it's already a done thing. I think you're right. Media has a way, story, media, the big screen, it has a way of just making an impact that will. I'm just excited just to see the ripple effect of what's going to come of this movie because even within our church, okay, I have seen the ripple effect of one family wanting to foster, and then another family, and then another family, and we've got so many people within our church that are adopting and fostering now, and there is a stir in the culture already. And I think this is going to be such a powerful tool just for everybody just to rise up, even if you're not called to foster or adopt, or maybe you're not at a like place where you can. It starts to stir your mind on, well, what can I do to help the people who are, what can I mean, can I pick their kids up and take them to the bouncy house for a few hours so that mom and dad can get some relief? I don't know. I just think this is going to be such a powerful tool.
And there's a big theme in the film about that, just the importance. And that's the thing that's so beautiful about this church and churches like it. And we weren't really part of a church like that, to be honest, when we were fostering. So it was hard. It was really hard because we felt really alone. We didn't really feel like we had the support. I think a lot of people in the church didn't really know how to support us because they didn't know much about the issue. But to watch this church and how they just gave up their lives for each other. I mean, there's crazy stories. Some of it we weren't even able to go into in the film where like there was an older couple that actually passed away. And then another family took their 5 kids so that they wouldn't go back into the system. And they already had, 4 or 5 kids of their own. And, they were really like, they just laid their lives down for each other. They gave up everything. They did it together. And I know myself, and I think a lot of people are longing for that type of community. I mean, we're all like longing. I think in this culture that's so disconnected oftentimes, we're connected through, social media and everything else, but we feel lonely and disconnected in reality because when things are hard, there's not a lot of people that will just throw down everything. I mean, at least for us, like we've been longing for more of that. So to see that in this community and in this church, I think God's calling his church to that. He's calling us into deeper relationship, deeper community, bearing one another's burdens so that we can do the hard things. Because when we do the hard things, the world looks on and goes, what is it about these people that's different? And that's one thing that drew me the story too, is that when they did this and they took on this like incredible thing, the world was like, who are these radical people? Oprah's calling, like, who are you? I mean, you took in the hardest to place kids, you emptied the system in your community. Like, I want to know who these people are. And we become the light to the world that God's called the church to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I love that this is based on that true story. I'm so curious as to how did you do the research to dive into these families and the stories, if they've happened 20 years ago, like what did that look like for y'all going back now to talk to the families and to do the research? What did that look like?
Well, it's a little radical, but we were writing for a pretty long period of time from Los Angeles. We have 5 kids of our own. And there was a point in the story where we just decided, man, like to really go deeper and to really understand this community and this church and these characters, we need to go deeper. We knew that. And so we picked up everything, sold our house, we moved to Deep East Texas, and we just immersed ourselves in the culture of this church. We started going to church with them at Bennett Chapel, driving out into the woods with our kids, and they just brought us into their community. And when we moved to Nacogdoches, Texas, which is the big town outside of Possum Trot where they go for, Chick-fil-A or the movies, because we couldn't move them to like Possum Trot or our kids would have killed us. But they brought the whole church to our house and they prayed over us and over our family and over our house. And so it's been a really special experience, but it really helped us to just go deeper with this story and to understand the characters and really give justice and give it justice and highlight them and honor them the way that we knew that we needed to.
Wow. So are the Martins still the lead of that church?
Yeah, they are. And they are powerful voices for
Okay.
the movement. So
And are some of those families, I guess, did they still go to the church? So they're all still there? Not all, but a
yeah,
good.
some of them. I mean, this happened almost 30 years ago. So some of the families have passed away, the parents, a lot of the kids. There's not a lot of industry in Deep East Texas.
Mhm.
So a lot of the kids have moved on to bigger cities and have
Right.
their own families now and things. But there's still a handful of the core families, especially those that are family members of the Martins that are still part of the church.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now with creating a film, I have always been curious about this. When things are based on a true story, but you are also the artist and you have creative license to make it fit the big screen, what does that look in balancing the two, taking the real life and wanting to honor that and adapting it for the big screen as well?
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, telling a true story is not easy because you have so many different storylines and characters and ways that you can go with it. You can tell it. You have a little bit different versions of the story based on who you talk with. I will say there was an incredible resource that came available where there was a social worker that studied this community for 20 years, who ended up getting her doctorate and writing her dissertation on this particular story, with the goal of
Wow.
highlighting the church and how the church is the solution. So when we moved to town, I was able to connect with her, and she was just such an incredible resource to be able to help me to navigate and help us to navigate the story and the characters. And some of the characters that had passed away that we couldn't even interview, like the social worker, she knew intimately and was able to share. So yeah, that really helped. But I
Yeah.
think being here in the community was definitely really helped us to capture this story
Yeah,
effectively.
and I think that that speaks to y'all's heart too, of just wanting to this not to be just a movie, but this to be a life change. You changed your life in order to be able to make this happen. So how long did y'all live there in near Possum Trot?
We're still here.
Oh, Oscar, I didn't realize that.
So we've been here for 3 years.
Okay.
And it's home to our family at this point, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful part of the country, actually.
Yeah.
Deep East Texas is pine trees. It's really green. The people are lovely and just very friendly. And we still, we'll go to Possum Trot, especially holidays and celebratory events, pastors appreciation.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. What would you say to the person? Because I think that this is a lot of people who will hear about, well, number one, I don't think that people know the need. I don't think I'll speak for myself. I didn't realize how many kids were right here in our community that needed homes until my friends started fostering and then seeing how one family has 5 kids because there's not enough people who will take them in. And so for one, I think a lot of people don't know the need, and I think this film will open their eyes to that. But two, what would you say to the person who's just fearful of bringing somebody into their home? I think I think that's an element that a lot of people have. They want to take a part in this movement. They want to do what God has said to do and take care of the fatherless, but they're just a little bit fearful. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I mean, it's normal, that we want to preserve our comfort and our family and protect our family and protect things. But I definitely think it's the thing that's holding us back from, honestly, even, the church fully functioning the way that God intended. When we preserve our comfort and we're safe, we don't really need each other as much. When our family stepped out in faith and started fostering, and our kids had a lot of, pain and trauma when they first came into our family, and it disrupted everything. I started to realize more than ever, like, my need for the Lord, my need for grace, my need for mercy, my need for the church to wrap around and to really be part of a church, to not just attend a church, but to really, be part of community in a really meaningful way. And so I think we're missing out. I mean, I see this church in Possum Trot and how interconnected they are and how much they love and serve. And they're just there for each other, and they're like that for me too. If I'm going out of town or I'm traveling, Rebekah, let me know what you need. They're sending you home with food and I think we're missing out. I think in our longing to be more comfortable, we're missing out on the togetherness that God has intended for us. And so it's this beautiful thing we're missing out on by preserving our comfort. And the honest truth is, James 1:27 says, true religion is to care for the orphans and widows. So we have to, as a church, come to terms with the fact that if we don't care for the orphans in our communities, then we don't have true religion. And that's a really serious indictment against the church. The state is willing to pay us as believers to care for these kids. The adoptions are free. All we have to do is disrupt our comfort zone, and we're not willing to do it. Even though God's commanded that we defend the fatherless and we care for the orphan and we care for the vulnerable, it isn't an optional thing in Scripture. It is a command. And so we just have to trust God, that if God says to do it, and if He says this is who we are as a church, this is our identity as believers, that we care for the vulnerable, then He's got something beautiful on the other side of that, and we need to trust Him.
I love that. And that does not always mean, and this is what I go back to, that y'all depicted this and you spoke to this. It does not mean it's going to be easy necessarily. But like, I love the way that you phrase, like, we're missing out. You're missing out on the fullness of community and God and walking in step with Him when we choose just our own comfort. And that is the truth in so many areas, not just this area of fostering, but in so many areas. When we choose just to be comfortable instead of obedience, we're comfortable. But we're missing out. We're missing out on the abundance, on the extra, on seeing God in new ways. Well, I did not realize this until I heard you on another interview I was listening to. I think you did it maybe a year ago, that the state only, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you were saying that the state only, like in the 60s or 70s, started taking on the whole foster type thing. Is that correct? Like that it was just the churches before that, and it didn't
It always was the church, and it's become more formalized over the years. And so I need to look into exactly when that happened. But, even across the world right now, and in many cultures, it is the church's responsibility, and it's only the church's responsibility. You don't even have a foster system in many countries. And I think the more the church has stepped back from this, the more the state has had to come in and take over. And we really want to see that turned around to where the church rises up and realizes this is our responsibility. This is what we're called to do. And we take that back, because the state isn't a family. We mentioned that in the film. And we are called as the church to be family to these children and to take them in. And I think the more that we relinquish that and give that over to a system that was never intended to take care of the orphans and the kids that are vulnerable, we're seeing devastating results. I mean, the kids that are in the system are aging out of the system right now. 20,000 children are aging out of the system every year without a family. So they don't have a support system. They don't have a safety net. They don't have people to come back to. They don't have anyone to guide them. And so where is that leading? Devastation. It's leading to human trafficking. It's leading to the prison systems. It's leading to, homelessness, incarceration, all of these things. It's all connected to the foster system, and it's all honestly connected to the church not doing the job that the church is called to do. So it's impacting every area of society right now.
So what is your biggest prayer? I think I know this, but you tell me, what is your biggest prayer for the impact of this movie?
Yeah, I'll probably cry, but I mean, we have given up, a lot. Like, it's been 8 years in the making. And it's our heart, it's our passion. We don't talk about it a lot, but everybody on the production, from the producers, the writers, director, have all given up all their back end to, in the foster crisis. So we're not going to make anything, even if the film does well. Our heart is that the church rises up and that good people step in and care for these kids, and really that this becomes a movement, that we shine a light on the issue, that this ignites the movement, and we raise up an army of people to go out and care for vulnerable kids, and that we have more than enough, that we don't, that there is more than enough resources, more than enough homes for these kids, so that when kids come into the system, they immediately come into a family and they're loved, they're cherished, they're protected. And, sometimes that's going to mean going back to their biological families and being restored, and their families restored, and that's wonderful. And if needed, they find permanency in a new family, and a family that will take them in.
Well, I love that. I think it's going to. I think your prayers are going to be answered, because it's God's heart too. Like y'all, I am just so excited just that this is happening. And I'm so excited that there's also this movement within Christian film to make movies that make an impact, not just entertain, not just a comedy. I mean, we love comedies, we love romances, we love it all. But going back to what you said about just media and movies and story doing so much, and these are the type of movies, when I say world changing, like it changes people's world when they can go from being tossed around to couch into a home with somebody that they can call mommy and daddy that love them. Like it changes their world, and it changes the adoptive parents world. And I'm excited for this film. So I would love to pray over you. Let me real quick, but let me make sure I'm not missing any of the things that I for sure wanted to ask about. Well, first of all, movies are going to be everywhere, right? On July 4th, it's everywhere. Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and there's actually, the theaters love the film so much that they've opened up sneak peek screenings on Juneteenth. So June 19th, across the country, there's about 1,000 theaters that have opened their doors. So
Okay.
you can look and find, you might be able to find a pre-screening in your area as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Is there a way to find that, or just you look at your local movie theater,
Yeah,
basically?
if you go to angel.com, you look under Sound of Hope and you look up, your zip code, you'll
Uh-huh.
see June 19th as a pre-screening option in a lot of
Okay.
areas. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That is good. I'm excited about that. I hope we've got one near us, because I'm going to be out of the country on July 4th. So I was like, and then I'm coming back for a day and then out. So I'm excited to know that there's the pre-screening. So that's awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
Anything else you want to say, tell people how to, anything, how they can get involved before I just pray over you?
Yeah, I would just say, as a small independent film that doesn't have a big P&A budget, print and advertising budget, we really need the grassroots, word of mouth support. So, I mean, we want to see churches pack theaters opening weekend. The opening weekend is so critical to, how long we stay in theaters and how many theaters open up. And so I would say bring your church, bring your family members, support films like this that really are and have the ability to impact culture and impact, this particular issue. And it isn't just for families of faith too. I'm a Christian, my husband's a Christian, we're passionate about the church rising up. But people that don't have a faith background that are coming into screenings, and it'll make me cry because this has always been our heart, has been to make films that expand outside of the church. But they're coming and saying, if church was like that, I would go to church. And
Mm.
so they're weeping at the end, they're crying, they're being deeply impacted. I'm talking about Hollywood agents, people that we didn't anticipate, we thought would be antagonistic towards the
Right.
message, are saying they're feeling something deeply. And I think we're able to take people to church and show them the potential of the church and the body of Christ in a way that's not preachy. It's just telling a story. So bring your family and friends that aren't Christians as well on opening weekend. And I think they're gonna love it.
Awesome. Down to the Juneteenth, does that have any effect of how many people go there as to how long it stays open?
Yeah, it counts as our box office
Okay.
for opening weekend, and
Okay.
it's really designed too to like spread the news and to get people to ignite the grassroots movement around the film.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. 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 We are going to do our part around here. We are going to
Yes.
shout it, to post it, to tell it because I'm just so excited about it because of the lives it's going to touch. So thank you for coming. I'm going to say a quick prayer over this movie and over y'all. God, thank you just so much for putting your hand on artists, writers, storytellers, producers who can tell the stories that you want them to tell. Thank you for being such a creative God that gives your giftings to your kids to
Mm.
do the work that you want to be done, God. You love the orphaned. You love these kids who think they're unlovable, and they are not unlovable, God. And just help us to be the hands and feet of you to love these kids, God, and help this movie to just ignite a passion in all of us to do what we can, to do what we can. We can do something. We can all do something, God. And I just pray for this film to catch on fire and to catch the hearts of people that will just continue to have a ripple effect for you and a ripple effect for loving these kids, God. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. Well, I am so excited, and I'm so glad that you had the time just to chat with us today. We are going to do our part in telling everybody about it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts when you're finished
I
watching it.
can't wait. I can't wait. See you. See you.
Thank you, Casey. Thanks for having me on today.
I hope y'all enjoyed that podcast. Y'all be sure to go like, subscribe this, leave a review. Let us know how you're liking it. We like that feedback. And if you want to follow us on other social platforms, on Instagram, it's Pizzazz Art Studio. Same for Facebook. And Pizzazz is P-Z-A-Z-Z. Pizzazz Art Studio. Go check us out and see what all we have to offer over there.